And, I never mean any disrespect. Okay. I also want to note something. The chakras originally did not have colors. That was very much so colonized. And that is pretty much so that people like myself can understand them better. Okay. So keep that in mind. And when you're learning something that is outside of your culture and your spiritual practices, to show some respect, but also learn the roots of where it began. Okay. So let's get into the root chakra. The root chakra is the first in the traditional 7 chakra system. It's located at the base of your spine, and it governs your sense of safety, your sense of security, your sense of stability, both physically and in the spiritual realm, and your connection to the physical world. Okay. So this world right here, which is called the 3D. Okay. Whenever I'm referring to the 5D, and I know that you've heard people with the tinfoil hats talk about the 5D, but the 5D is essentially when we connect to our highest selves, when we connect to God, when we connect to our spirit guides, and it is how we connect even to lost loved ones, etc. Okay. So that is what the 5D is. The 3D is where you're at right now, physically. Okay. The root chakra is associated with the color red. Though some people have also mentioned and wanted me to note this, that it is also associated with the color black for grounding. Okay. The element of the root chakra is earth. So earth signs. I am talking to you this time. Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo. We are the earth signs. I am a Virgo sun if you're new here. So the planets that are associated with the root chakra are Saturn, because Saturn is all about structure. Saturn is all about discipline. Mars, because Mars is associated with your survival instincts and action. Okay. So whenever you think of the root chakra, you might have seen the spiritual hippy dippies who I love show you what is called grounding. Grounding physically is when you go out. One example of it, this is one example of it, would be going outside and with no shoes on, like walking in the grass with no shoes on. I don't recommend that personally, but I mean, I am also a clean freak, so that's just me. But if you want to do that, that is a great way to ground. There are other ways that you can do grounding, and I will definitely be adding those to my notes before I even get to that. And that part of it, of the episode today, may end up being on Patreon, because I'm going to be pulling up the notes for that. I see now, as I'm looking over my notes, that they are not here on my main docket. So they're likely a part of the docket that was originally meant for Patreon anyway. But that is one way to ground. Being in nature is considered grounding. So being around trees, people make fun of so-called tree huggers, but that is connecting with the earth. Any way that you can connect with the earth, and consider that the earth is not just the trees and the grass. The earth is a lot of different elements. Okay. It is being in the elements. It is being in the air. It is being in water. It is essentially thanking the earth for everything that she does and provides for us. Okay. And honoring her. All right. And so that is one way to heal your root chakra. Now, the reason why the root chakra is an area that I wanted to cover is that if in your childhood you experienced any sort of trauma, and this could span a lot of different areas, and I'm not going to go too deep into it because I don't want to trigger anybody, but this is a chakra that we constantly have to work at. And because of what the world is experiencing right now, with there being a lot of chaos and division, the root chakra for the average person is out of alignment. Okay. When you think about your stability, this does not mean at home. This doesn't mean you need to go buy a bunch of guns. This doesn't mean that you need to immediately have fear or show ignorance towards people who are not like you, who don't think like you, etc. What this means is being stable in your environment, being safe in your environment. And so for those of us whose trauma began very early in our life, we always feel in that we are in fight or flight, even at home, because the first instance of trauma began at home. And so this is why I wanted to focus so much on healing this area for you, and that it wouldn't matter if you have every security system, if you have every gun there is, etc., your pepper spray, your taser, all of the above. If you don't heal your root chakra, you will never genuinely feel safe. You will always have this unnecessary guard up towards people who are not like you, towards people who you are making assumptions about, etc. And that is not something that I want for my listeners. Okay. So what I want to focus on next is unconventional ways that you can heal your root chakra. Of course, I talked to you about grounding. Grounding is important in general. And remember that this is where your chakra system starts. So the foundation or the base of your chakra system has to stay in alignment. So yes, you can go outside and walk in the grass. You can touch trees. That's something I always enjoy doing. I've always enjoyed connecting with trees. If you're an earth sign, your connection with trees in general is likely higher than others, especially if you have a lot of earth placements in your birth chart. I've talked about birth charts before at the end of season 2. I will talk about it again for the next series. We're not going to be getting into the birth chart series anytime soon. I do want to push that back because I do want to just focus on other topics. But as I've mentioned before, get your birth chart. It is free to do so. If anybody is charging you to give you your birth chart, they are a scammer. Okay. Because that is something that you can go on Google or whatever you use, Ask Jeeves, whatever, ChatGPT, one of the others. You ask them, where can I find a free birth chart? And they should give you a list of websites that will give you a birth chart. All right. And it is important for you to know what time you were born in order for the birth chart to be accurate. When I used to do the Lua report, this is why I would hesitate on certain areas, because their birth chart wasn't necessarily accurate, because most celebrities are not going to tell you this is the time that I was born, or we don't know that information. Okay. So this is why it's important, because when we were born, the planets, the stars, etc., everything was in a particular placement, and the sun and the moon. Okay. And so this is why your sun sign is a particular sign, your moon sign is a particular sign, but your rising sign is based on what time you were born. So once you know how much of, let's say, a sign you have in your birth chart, the more your life and your decisions begin to make sense. It is essentially explaining who you are and where you're going. For instance, I have a Libra stellium. So it explains a lot about why I'm the way I am in my choices, and even in why I need things to be a certain way. Because although I am a Virgo sun, that Libra stellium has a lot to do with my personality. So this is what I mean about your birth chart. So when I say that if you have a lot of earth signs in your birth chart, that this will connect with you. That's what I'm referring to, because you might be a Virgo sun, Virgo moon, Virgo Mercury, or a Taurus moon, Virgo sun, etc. And that's what I mean by, you have a lot of earth signs in your birth chart. Okay. So the root chakra is very important to you. So some unconventional ways that you can heal your root chakra. Taking a cold shower. Now, this is not something I enjoy, nor do I think that you need to do this very often. But you see, you're exposing your body to a controlled discomfort. Okay. This strengthens your resilience, and it grounds you to the present moment, because the second that cold water hits you, you are awake. You are aware. And so that is the first way that you can balance your root chakra. Ancestral healing. Okay, there's a lot of different rituals here that I won't go over, because my ancestry is sacred to me. And so how I do my own rituals is not something that I would share with just the basic public. And if you don't understand that, then I suggest that you look into why that is, why certain practices are gatekept. Okay, because they've been colonized. That's why. And so ancestral healing depends on your own ancestry. And for my white listeners that have asked me before, I've been asked this probably 4 or 5 times now, how do I connect with my ancestry? I'm not very fond of it, or I'm not very proud of it. I'm sure that you have ancestors in your family that were not awful people. And so those are the ancestors that I would advise you get to know and understand. Okay.